Thing is. Okay, we're live, brother. I'm gonna hit the thing.
He wanted to call out Hassan Piker, famed leftist Twitch streamer.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the quartering, and, it's time for Ethan Klein's...
Own fault.
Oh, well, good morning.
Yes. Good morning. Firearms Friday.
I was messing around with some settings because I used to have it set up so that by default websites weren't allowed to autoplay sounds and video. Sergeant Major says, shout out to all the viewers who took an oath to defend our nation. We vote. Damn right. But
yeah.
Anyway,
what he's referring to.
I was working on the settings. I think I fixed it so that the default is now the websites are not allowed to play sounds. So there shouldn't be any more of that auto start video play crap. Mm-hmm. Except I just set that up and I opened all these tabs with our stories for the day before that. So today may be the last day that we run into that hiccup. Hopefully.
Until the next time OBS has an update or Windows has an update or Restream has an update.
I think it's going to be until Chrome has an update.
But yeah. Or any and all of the above. Yeah. Till they say, oh, you turned us off. Screw you. We're going to figure out how to get around it.
Yep. So in other kind of housekeeping news, I've been busy as a squirrel trying to shit a pineapple this week, and I ran into a couple of technical hiccups with the special interview from last weekend. That is coming down the pipe as soon as I can get it done. And last night was the Rockdale County GOP meeting where we got a presentation from a group called Redo Voting. And so as soon as I can get that video edited and out, I will. And that's super interesting. I can't wait to share that information with you guys. But it is Firearms Friday, and we don't have any particularly special firearms news this week, so it is wall-to-wall DGUs. Plus, it happens to be the first Friday of the month, and I believe we made a promise with reference to that.
Yeah, first Friday of the month. We always try and do wall-to-wall DGUs.
Absolutely. You want to take this first one? I'll introduce it and you take it over. Sure. Okay, so this first DGU today was published on the 31st, so day before yesterday, and comes to us from Pasadena, Texas. Here, before I flip it over, let me go ahead and spin that up a little bit so you can read it better.
There we go. Okay. Woman shoots man to death after he attacked her and another woman, Pasadena police say. The man was shot twice after attacking two different women and crashing into several parked cars near a business, according to police. You know, before I ever even get into the story.
Wow.
Wow, before
Drugs?
Yeah, definitely drugs. In fact, and I don't just mean
And
like...
we can narrow it down to a certain subset of drugs.
That's correct. Yeah, that's not, that's probably not just weed, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, that sounds like meth.
Yeah, that does sound like meth. Also, again, if you claim to be a feminist and you're not packing heat,
You're a terrible feminist.
yes, you're probably a terrible feminist anyway. But I digress. Okay,
No, I mean, there's basically two kinds of feminists: those that strap one on and those that
strap one on. A man was shot and killed after outside of a laboratory business. Okay, I see what happened. A man was shot and killed outside of a laboratory business in Pasadena after attacking two women and crashing into several cars, according to police. The incident began just after midnight Wednesday on South Houston Road outside of Univar Solutions Laboratory. I happen to know that is a pest control laboratory. I know that
really?
from another life. Yeah, I know that from another life. Investigators said a man was standing outside of the business when he started yelling at women and hitting the side window of her car. The woman was able to eventually get in her car and drove out of the gated parking lot. According to investigators, that's when the man got into the car and drove through the closed electric gate of the parking lot, hitting several cars. Another woman grabbed her handgun and confronted the man before shooting him twice after he attacked her. The man later died at the hospital and the woman was injured. So, that's, yeah, that's pretty intense. So, dude's standing outside of a secure facility, acting crazy. And then as those automatic gates open and close, he waits for the gates to open. And then he goes tearing ass into this parking lot, hits several cars, attacks people. And then somebody's like, even though I'm inside my gated community, maybe I should still bring a gun with me to work. Even if I just leave it in my car, I should just bring a gun with me to work because you never know. And it turns out you were correct. You never know.
Yeah.
And it's just that simple. Also, man, I'm blanking on the name of it, but there's a Peter Weller movie where, God, I can't believe I'm blanking on the name of it. It's so trippy. He's a pest control technician, and he starts to see all these bizarre things. And it turns out that his pest control products are not safe, and they're slowly poisoning him. So he's hallucinating, and it's this whole movie. Guarantee you that's your smallest one.
Oh yeah, guaranteed. The herd of elephants? Yeah, that's the 3-year-old. Oh, it wasn't Naked Lunch, was it?
I don't know. Was he a pest control technician who was slowly being poisoned by his own product in that movie?
No, it was mostly cockroaches with vagina typewriters. A lot of drugs.
Yeah.
But the drugs were pesticide.
So it's probably Naked Lunch. Anyhow, long story short, somebody was crazy outside of a bug control facility, and they got DOT'd.
It went bug nuts.
That's right.
Okay.
Hey, there's a name I don't recognize.
Videns. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you hit that sub button and join us every day at 0730. I'm gonna go ahead and get into this next one. There's a little tag up here that says yesterday. This one comes from Detroit via the AP. Witnesses, armed bystander prevented 4th Detroit death.
Okay.
What can I tell you about this story? It's not going to appear on your mainstream media news because it doesn't serve the narrative. I can tell you from that headline right there that there are a bunch of AP reporters even and CNN editors and the like, you know, your MSNBC guys, they all saw this headline come across their desk and they said, "No, this isn't the story we want."
Right.
A young man suspected of randomly killing 3 people on Detroit streets fled when an armed bystander saw him shoot a 4th person and responded with his own gunfire, witnesses told a TV station. "He scattered like a jackrabbit," Wallace Pleasant told WXYZ TV.
Wow, that's a name right there, buddy.
Really? 3 people were killed over roughly 2 hours early Sunday. The 19-year-old suspect remained in custody Tuesday while police and prosecutors prepared to file charges Wednesday. And,
wow.
Okay, what do we know about the suspect from this description?
You mean from his lack of description?
Exactly. The suspect shot a 4th person, an 80-year-old man who was walking his dog, according to police. Aya Maxie Golson told the TV station that she witnessed another man fire shots in an attempt to stop the suspect. She said she believes the suspect would have kept shooting the elderly man like he did the other victims that morning. Police spokesman Rudy Harper confirmed the account Tuesday. WXYZ didn't identify the man who intervened, but quoted him as saying the suspect saw my weapon and he went from predator to prey.
That's
my man.
That is exactly how that's supposed to work.
The suspect was arrested hours later at his home. 2 of the 3 people who were killed Sunday were identified as Cheney Lewis Lee and Larry Briscoe, according to friends and the medical examiner's office. Okay, the story was corrected because they got the name wrong the first time.
Yeah. So, Alex.
Hey, there's Alex joined us, and good morning, dear.
Yes. Wow.
Not you, Alex.
Okay, so this happened in Detroit.
Yep.
Don't they have in Detroit one of those really blue areas?
Oh yeah, with super strict gun laws.
Do they have really strict gun law in Detroit? Oh, yeah. I don't know, because usually when you hear about Detroit, you hear about bad water and terrible economics.
Well,
and being able to buy.
They have a lot of guns, but they're all unconstitutionally illegal because Detroit is a Democrat stronghold.
Yeah.
It has been. Detroit has been a Democrat stronghold for so long that people have started to forget that Ford got functionally run out of Detroit because the city is falling apart and has been for longer than most of you have been alive.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and I think there's something to be said there too for, you know, we talk a lot about just repeal all federal gun laws. It'd be nice to just repeal all of them, but I can't control what dumbasses in California do.
Right.
I can only control what people in Georgia do and what my representatives represent me to do in the federal court system.
Ooh, you know what else you can't control in California?
Anything?
Apparently your own thermostat or cars.
Because here's the thing, when you've got that kind of gun control, like, there's obviously a lot more to this story, because you got Dude Buddy, like, he's 19 years old, and he, over a course of several hours, shoots a bunch of people, and
yeah, that doesn't sound like an unhinged random shooting spree. That sounds like somebody who had specifically selected targets and a reason in mind. Hunting.
An 80-year-old, a 40-year-old, a 43-year-old, a 28-year-old, like, you... Yeah, there's definitely more to this story. But when you're in an area where you've got heavy gun control, and then you've got all the other gun control measures that either have filtered in or act as a springboard for your local gun control, you make all these people soft targets. We talk a lot about how, for example, if guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns. again, I go back to like that whole thing about how, you know, even if you're a felon, at some point you've paid your debt to society, right? You've paid off, you've done your time, you've paid off your probation, you've done everything. The court says, okay, Mr. Person who was in trouble, you're no longer in trouble. You're allowed to have everything in your life back except your ability to defend your life. Then you give yourself a concentrated area like Detroit that's probably got a higher than average number of felons. And you just say, oh, tough guys. You guys are not allowed to defend yourselves or your property or anything. Ha ha. And then some 19-year-old who probably didn't have a record at 19. He's still young enough to have probably dodged all that. And then what? Some person that probably had to bend over backwards to get a gun control permit to carry in Detroit stopped them? Like, no. What was it? Crowder dropped the stat the other day that 94% of mass shootings happen in gun-free zones.
Yep.
You think?
It used to be all but one ever, the Lubies in Texas, but there have been a few in the last 5 years, I think. I think there have been 2 in the last 5 years that broke that trend. Okay.
Yeah, but that's...
So, yeah, James, hit me up offline and we'll talk about that a bit, and maybe there's a way that we can discuss it. We'll talk about that later.
There's one other thing to point out here, too. You know how often just the presence of a gun, like, as soon as he saw my weapon, he stopped being a predator and started being prey?
Right.
Do you know how often just knowing that they're armed, like that thing with the Canadian truckers, they might have guns.
Right. And do you know how
Not
often?
that we know they have guns.
Right.
They might.
And do you know how often? No, you don't. Because that's what makes the statistics on defensive gun use difficult, is the vast majority of the time when a lawfully armed citizen stops a crime from going forward, he doesn't do it by just blasting. He doesn't just draw his weapon and kill all the criminals and then call the police to come and do a basically cleanup on aisle 13. The vast majority of those cases, the weapon is shown, the criminal retreats, and then the incident is unreported.
Because there wasn't much of an incident.
So the CDC estimates on the number of incidents like that, the conservative estimate is 3 million annual. And that's the low conservative estimate. We're sure there are at least this many, but we suspect, based on the statistical data that brings us to we know it's at least this many conclusion, that it's more likely to be double that. That's huge.
Well, I've told you before about how, Papa Sheepdog used to say that racking the shotgun was how you saw assholes and elbows instantly.
Yeah, he's not technically. Yeah.
Anyhow, keep going.
Well, I just want to make this point real quick. According to usafacts.org, there were a total of 45,222 firearm deaths in the U.S. in 2020. Right? So, and I bring that up for, first off, that 45,000 number. Remember, that includes all justified police shootings, all suicides, right? And accidental gun deaths, right? So that's significant. That 3 million number is significantly more than all gun deaths, let alone all gun deaths that are the result of crime. And then when you look at the actual murder statistics, the majority of those are not just random citizens being murdered by a bad guy. The majority of those are gang crime related, like gun battle, assassination, gangland, execution type crap.
Well, I mean, that sort of gun control solves the problems that the way the left loves to solve problems. It's sort of like that whole tranny thing. We're going to pass a bunch of laws that affect sub 1% of the population. And it's the same thing. Well, we're going to have these gun control measures that are actually, assuming they work, are going to prevent less than 1% of the gun deaths that we report. And that's assuming that they work. Because, you know, again, good guys are going to comply with your gun laws.
Right.
I mean, duh. Okay, so what else we got?
We just covered this one. Okay, so
yeah, wall to wall, and we're only 2 in.
Yeah, well, there's more to the story. There's always more to the story. So this one comes to us August 29th out of Nashville from WCorn.com. KRN. WCorn. Woo! You want to take this one?
Yes. Oh, look, here we go. Deadly shooting at Donaldson Bar being investigated as possible self-defense. Gee, this is written by Lucas Wright. I know everything I need to know about Lucas Wright just from that headline. No charges have been filed yet following a deadly shooting this past weekend.
But we're really hoping, guys.
I know, right? It happened at Lucky's Bar and Grill on Stewart's Ferry Pike early Saturday morning. I'm actually familiar with that road, but not the bar. Police say Christopher Johnson, 45, was killed in the gunfire. Authorities have since interviewed the second man involved in the gunfire, Gregory Dotson, 39. Dotson told the police that he and Johnson were involved in a heated verbal argument when Johnson pulled out a gun and fired shots at him. Dotson told the police he returned fire in self-defense. Dotson and several other witnesses reportedly fled the scene Saturday following the shooting. 2 other victims were said to be struck by gunfire. There is no update on their conditions, but they were expected to survive. The investigation is still ongoing. Okay, so unless Dotson unless Dotson is lying about being shot at first,
then it's not alleged self-defense.
I mean, like, man, that's okay. And maybe he's lying. Okay. Holy shit. I just got drunk and committed murder. Maybe I should lie.
Well,
okay.
Maybe Dotson and several other witnesses are lying together.
I'm tracking. Okay.
I'd lie to the cops for you.
No, you wouldn't.
Mostly.
No, you would tell the cops the absolute truth.
You know what? Contextually, that's actually quite fair.
Anyhow, yes, and then, you know, it's funny, Alex, there was a story that I wanted to get to here from Atlanta, and I was stupid and just didn't pull it. It's follow-up on self-defense. But he says, regardless of the outcome, that's $1 million shooting for Mr. Dotson. That's one of the ways that the left is actually trying to attack us in that sense. Like, everything about the way this story is framed and everything else is, oh, there were innocent bystanders that got shot, and oh, we're not real sure if this was a self-defense, and you got to go through this hearing and that hearing, and you think Dotson's ever going to get that handgun back, like
nope.
Ever, right? That's another thing Papa Sheepdog used to say is you have 2 of your daily carry, because if you ever have to use one, you need to go to the backup with the other. Like, and it is what it is, because you're never going to get that gun back. It's going to be evidence, right?
And it will continue to be evidence even after the case is entirely closed.
Yes. And so then there's the heated verbal argument. There's probably alcohol involved. But at the same time, okay, there's a few assumptions that I'm willing to make. If this was murder, if Dotson fired first, if Dotson was not threatened in any way, he'd already be arrested, because the witnesses probably would have went, man, that dude got pissed and just shot him 3 times. It was scared the absolute hell out of me. Plus, when you look at the fact that there was an exchange of gunfire, there were bystanders that got injured. Like, if I walk up to you and shoot you at point blank range, I'm probably not going to miss.
True.
But if you and I are in an intoxicated state that leads to a gunfight, there might be some misses, you know? Don't do it. Don't do it.
I'm not. We're good.
And then it's and your wife even points out, it's if you punch the bully picking on you and then he punches you back. I mean, yeah, that can happen. That could happen. But needless to say, if this was not most likely self-defense, Dotson would probably already be arrested. There'd already be people in the story, but no charges have been filed yet. However, what's interesting is that whole stand your ground, self-defense thing. That's great, but I'm coming to believe that those laws don't go far enough. You know, we give cops a form of qualified immunity, and maybe we shouldn't. Okay, that's actually something that I've started to change my mind on over time. But maybe possibly, if somebody has a potential self-defense case, maybe some version of qualified immunity should apply to them, where the state has the highest possible bar, period, to even bring the case to prosecution. Like, you better be able to have like closed CCT, closed circuit television system footage showing, no, this was not self-defense. You're lying. You need to have like hand of God type stuff. Because otherwise, self-defense, nope, fuck off. Oh, somebody else got hurt. We know this from our insurance world with the whole proximate cause thing. If lightning strikes a tree and the tree falls over and hits your house, it's not the tree that damaged your house. It's the lightning. So if you force me into a self-defense situation and somebody else gets hurt in that self-defense situation, it's not my fault somebody else got hurt. You forced me into a self-defense situation.
Agreed.
And we have no problem charging people with felony murder if that goes the other way. If I use my gun incorrectly, you'll charge me all the hell and back with felony murder. But I don't get the same thing in reverse for my defense. Okay, screw you.
Well, and Alex gets tough. If you're in a bar, possibly drinking, getting into arguments, and then a gunfight, that's not the kind of gun owner I want to defend. I agree with you 99% there, Alex. I'm gonna make this one addendum. In this story, we have 2 guys apparently shooting at each other, and I can go out on a limb here and say we're outside a bar. 2 guys are in a heated verbal argument. They start shooting at each other, and the likely conclusion that one should draw is both these guys are assholes. However, I would also argue that, completely external to the question of what the law is currently, that the law ought not to be meddling in the affairs of individuals engaged in voluntary activity. In this case, what I would say sounds a lot like mutual combat. 2 men chose to get into a gunfight together. And if, basically, not to put too fine a point on it, bring back the duel. If that's what you want to do, well, there's a high degree of probability that at least one of the 2 people in that situation are the sort of people that we can do without.
People would talk a lot less shit if we brought back duels. That's for sure.
You want to bring down the tone of the political discussion. You want to lower the temperature on the diatribe and on the narrative. My man, an armed society is a polite society. People run their mouths so much today because they forgot
There's no
that you just get hit in the mouth some.
Oh yeah. Have you seen the?
And yeah, Alex, I'm with you 100%. There's something to be said for that as long as bystanders aren't getting shot. Yes. And that's another piece of that's actually a pro for my argument that the duel would be a good thing. You got two men standing, with backstop behind them, even if that backstop is just, obviously clear, open, straight line all the way down, and they've announced their intent to engage in mutual combat. Now the bystanders, if there are any, know, okay, well, we better be on the not behind either of these guys, and if we're smart, we're just gonna leave. But if you've got it that it's a habit that sort of thing is ongoing.
Oh yeah, people will figure it out real quick.
Yeah, you'll honestly, that's one of those things where if you just came out tomorrow and were able to announce, hey, duels are a thing again, you'd have a bunch of them for about a week and then no more. Then they would become super rare.
So, okay. There's another piece to that. It's one reason why we love Alex and Danny from the TPS report. They're actually pretty good. They give you things to think about. Here's the deal, though. With that whole thing about going to a bar and getting drunk, that's not the type of gun owner I would like to defend. Do you remember when we went to Fido's? Oh, you weren't there, were you?
I've been to Fido's.
No. Specifically for somebody's wedding.
Yeah, I was there.
Man,
Patrick's wedding?
That's right. Man, I remember
and
your pregnant sober wife and my pregnant sober wife basically tolerating the rest of us. Okay, so we went to Fido's, we ate blood sausage, we drank a ton of Guinness. Scott.
And in the middle of the ceremony, we just all of a sudden heard Vera, my at the time 2 or 3
no, not the ceremony. I'm talking about Fido's.
No, just at the ceremony. The ceremony's going on, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you hear my daughter shout, "No, mommy, you shut up!"
Yes, that was funny. Okay, but we're at Fido's, and I was at that point where I was packing. Okay.
Yeah, so was I.
Exactly. So what if somebody had come into that bar acting like a total asshole? It was a verbal altercation, and then it turned into a physical altercation, and then one of us ended up shooting that person, and they got violent first. So to just say, if you're the type of person, you're drinking at a bar, and that's not somebody I want to defend. I would not be prepared to make that blanket statement. In fact, I would be careful making that kind of a blanket statement because it's one of those things that the left likes to use against us. Well, if you're an addict, you clearly shouldn't have a gun because you make bad life choices. Yeah, okay, so I should just never have a gun again. If I could prove to you that I've been sober for 5 years, I can't own a gun?
Right. PTSD is a mental disorder.
That's another good one.
Every veteran suffers from.
So you're never allowed to own a firearm
no one
again.
who has ever served in the military should be allowed to own a firearm, according to Dianne Feinstein. She actually tried to put that forward in legislation. And so, yeah, that's why I said, Alex, if you're in a bar possibly drinking, I am with you about 99% on that.
And that was 10 years ago, wasn't it?
It was indeed. But like in the situation that Cameron's describing,
Oh yeah, I definitely.
I'm always armed, but I never drink until I'm maybe once every other year or two. I think I've been shitty drunk twice in the past 2 years. Both times on camera. Yeah. Yeah, Alex, you're not wrong. But that's one of those where
there'd have been a whole lot of
I was there, I probably
jail.
had maybe 2 beers. Because that's just, I don't drink at bars. I don't drink that much.
Yeah, I would have been in jail because it would have been illegal to have a gun in a bar back then. Fine, fair enough. Okay, and I actually think that the laws are trending in the right direction. I've said before that I don't think Georgia's laws go far enough in protecting gun owners, but they are a step in the right direction. And is Fido's more of a bar or a restaurant?
It's more of a restaurant.
So maybe that's a bad example. But even with all that being said, like when you're looking at the ethics of it and how the government uses the language and everything, I still say just because you're drunk in a bar does not mean suddenly you're not allowed to carry a weapon, defend your life. And then yes, Alex says, and even though it's legal now, a good rule of thumb is that if you've been drinking, don't ever go to the gun, make better decisions, and walk away. Honestly, yes. One of the things that I observed when I started carrying in my early 20s was that I was much less likely to get into an altercation with somebody because I was aware of the fact that I was armed. Mm-hmm. So suddenly the math was, is it worth it to argue with this person? Knowing that there's this tiny, tiny outside possibility that it could go so wrong and I end up on the 6 o'clock news.
Okay, and I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole because it's after 8 and I need to get to work. But one more factor there. Yes, it's a good rule of thumb if you've been drinking, don't ever go to the gun. Again, 99%. There are going to be outliers there, but and normally I wouldn't even address outliers. Like talking about rape babies and abortion cases, your outliers are irrelevant to the rule. So I agree with you there, Alex. And kind of to bolster that, it is important. It is a good habit to go thee girded about. You should carry a firearm. It is a useful tool for self-defense, but it is not the only tool for self-defense, right? Just because you find yourself in a situation where you need to defend yourself, right? If the other person doesn't have a firearm, you may not necessarily need to go for your firearm. You have fists and feet. There are things about.
You have a brain.
You have a brain. You can hit them with a chair or a cigarette machine, whatever's handy.
Or you can leave. As Alex pointed out.
Or you can leave.
And I'm not talking duty to retreat bullshit. Choosing to leave a situation is not the same thing as having a duty to retreat.
Correct. You do not have a duty to retreat. And if your state has a law that has a duty to retreat, your state should be abolished. So, all right. Let's wrap this up.
Safety brief.
It is the first weekend of September.
Are you going to talk about the monkeypox super spreader event that's going on in Atlanta right now? Ooh, I waited the whole show to drop that bomb.
They are not wearing surgical masks.
They're not. They are wearing masks, though. Some
lots
of them,
and lots of masks. Masks abound. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Dragon Con this weekend. And here's the rule of thumb. Dragon Con safety. If you are going to the con, dear God, leave your children at home.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Sure.
Shoot first.
Ew. Ew.
If you are not a great big nerd, I've been to the Dragon Con a couple times. If you're not going to Dragon Con this weekend, here's your basic safety rule for Atlanta. Fucking don't. Just don't. Don't Atlanta this weekend. Go somewhere else. Get as far away from the city as you can.
Did shots with Ted Raimi at
I hugged Alice Cooper at Dragon Con. He points. We went with a kid when I was pregnant and hugged Alice Cooper. I almost stepped on him. I felt like I had to hug him.
He did the Juxter the Mighty little jig. Ted Raimi. Oh yeah, and like just all the women, which probably doesn't surprise you.
No, not at all.
And he had a cigarette case, and he was one of those where like he'd pack the individual cigarettes by tapping it against the cigarette case. Yeah, it was good times.
It's a very chic affectation.
Well, but he was real nice.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't a dick at all.
Right.
It's like, oh.
So yeah. And apart from that, don't drive drink, don't fry bacon naked, don't get shot. We love you, and we will see you Monday.